welcome to Talking Heartland. This is the show where we talk about Heartland and past episodes and seasons of Heartland. And today we're talking about season 7, episodes 13 through 15. It's a lot of Lisa and Jack. It's going to be fun. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Michelle's here.
Hey everyone.
Yes. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. I was just saying to Rachel, I'm a bit kind of out of it, a bit tired, but I'm excited to talk about these ones.
Yeah, me too. I had my big swimming race yesterday, so I'm a little a little bit in recovery mode today, but I'm excited to talk about Heartland. It's always fun to talk about Jack-centric episodes, and we basically have 3 of them in a row.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So this first one, it's called Lost Highway, and the little summary is just Jack's old flame reappears and everyone thinks they should give it another chance. I mean, it makes it sound like somebody from like way long ago, not like
Yeah,
last
yes,
year.
years ago. I know.
But yes, I mean, I really like Lisa and Jack. Would you say they're one of the better couples in Harlan?
I would say they're probably like sacrilege to say this, but I would probably say they're my favorite. Um, I feel like maybe just because I'm a bit older, I'm a bit more attached to them. I feel like if I
Yeah.
was younger, I would definitely be more in the Amy and Ty side of things, but I'm just a sucker for like older romances, like second chance
Yeah.
romances.
Yeah.
It's if
Me
they're done
too.
really well, and the chemistry's there, like it's just magic for me.
Yeah, and you don't get to see it that often, I feel like. Sort of an older romance on a show. Like I don't know, I can't think of that many other examples of like really good uh romances that are like this. I don't know, I just feel like it's unique.
Yeah, the only one I can sort of think
Mhm.
about is Parenthood. He had like the older couple
Yeah,
in that, but it was very sort of um tumultuous most of the seasons, whereas
yeah,
this is really focused on the relationship and sort of making it work, and there's no sort of like
yeah,
cheating aspect or anything like that.
right. Yeah, and they start out together,
Yeah.
whereas in this they're together pretty early on, but they're not like married,
Hmm.
which is it's just like a different dynamic. So I think it's a really good one. And so we have a new horse in the mix named Cinders that comes in. It's Lisa's horse.
Hmm.
It's Lisa gets thrown from the horse, and so she thinks that Amy is the right one because the horse is got spooked by an electric fence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they do a great job in the show, as we've said many times, with these horses. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even just that scene alone, they do such a great job with like such a small budget and working with animals. It's just that they've just got it down to like a T now.
Mhm. Yeah, I just don't know how they do it. I would love to talk. If anybody's listening that that deals with the horses, I would love to talk with the horse handler and find out how they do it more because I just think it's incredible.
If it's like
And
one person or if it's like a team.
yeah,
Yeah, it'd be interesting to find out.
yeah, I it must be a team, but I don't know how they're able to make it look so realistic while still not hurting, the animals is really, I would love to know exactly. But I think that Sean Johnston does a great job in these scenes with Lisa and with like talking about Lisa. He just looks so sad. You're just like,
Yeah,
oh, shoot. He does a great job, and you get a lot of the flashbacks to in this episode with like it starts out with a flashback of them on the fishing trip and him talking to Lisa, and
Mhm.
he just looks really sad.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was watching this episode, I was like, "Oh my god," like, I actually, like, tweeted, like, "Heartland just loves a flashback," like,
Yeah,
every episode they
there were
have,
a
like,
lot.
flashbacks, but I was so relieved in this episode that we actually get a flashback that we haven't seen before, um,
Mhm.
of that, I believe it's the Arizona trip, so we actually get something from these flashbacks, I thought was really, really good.
Yeah, yeah. And we also have Katie is really struggling without her mom, and she's crying lots.
Mhm,
And Peter is considering going on tour with Katie and Lou, but he doesn't want to bring Georgie. Georgie wants to go, feels like she kind of always gets a little bit forgotten.
mhm.
But I thought that her sort of little arc where she comes to realize that she has to do what's best for Katie, and she says, "You and Katie should go on the tour." That was very sweet.
I'm sort of torn on this one. Like, I feel like it worked when I was watching the episodes, and then it's more like as I thought about it, I feel like it's much like this is where you sort of see where the writers really struggled this season in terms of like actor availability because we obviously know that Michelle Morgan wasn't available. I believe she was on maternity leave at this point, uh,
Mhm.
and they only have Gabriel for such a short amount of time each season. So I feel like he had to go as well, and so the writers were really sort of scrambling to sort of find a way to make it so that George's parents are sort of gone for these episodes.
Mhm.
And I just found it a little bit difficult that again this is a show where like they ask the children to be the adults in the situation so much.
Yeah, that's
Like it's
fair.
like I felt like it would have been so much better for Georgie to be like, I don't want to leave Heartland. I want to stay with my horses. I want to stay with like because she has a lot of things going on. She has the trick riding. She has the show jumping. So it would be believable for her to say like for Peter to say you have to come because we're like a unit now, and her to
Mhm.
say no, I want to stay, and him sort of having to deal with that instead of her having to like step up. It was just a little like nitpick, but yeah,
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, they also kind of try to make her seem kind of negligent because she forgets to put the blanket on the horse,
yeah,
and then forgets to give him the food for Cinders, and so that's yeah, I can see what you're saying. I just thought it was sweet the way that she sort of learned to think of Katie more than her for herself. But I can see what you're saying too, that they definitely were like trying to kind of reach to keep her at the ranch, but it probably would have worked better if they had just had her have to stay there in order to do her riding or something like that. She says she
sorry, go
feels
ahead.
like she says she feels like she was dumped by Peter and Lou, which is probably accurate.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I just I don't want to see a situation with Mallory again, which we won't because obviously Lou is like a main character, but it was so frustrating to see Mallory not have her parents present the entire time.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
but yeah, like you said, it is good to see her sort of step up and be like a sister,
Mhm.
um, and sort of take on that responsibility.
Yeah. So what did you think of Tim tricking Jack to meet up with Lisa?
I feel like every time, even Tim, when he does something nice, he's always got to be like the worst about it. Like, even
Yeah,
when he has good intentions, it's just so smug and he's got to, like, be so childish and I mean,
yeah.
like, the
And he
actor's so good at, like, at playing Tim of, like, he understands how to, like, wind all of us up. Like, I feel like I feel like he 100% at this point knows what he's doing, and how frustrated the audience gets with him.
Yeah, and he he says, I've got to live with him
It's
first.
like, no, you don't.
And then the they do have a conversation between Tim and Jack, where Tim, says like, "I saw the light," and then Jack says, "You missed your calling, but you're not making a believer out of me." And you do get at least like a vulnerable moment from Tim where he's like, "I let it all slip away." Marion, that's right, that's right, that's right. We also have Ty's birthday coming up,
Mm,
so that'll I think that Amy is trying to prepare for that, and we get a cake, I think, in the next episode. But so there's a little bit with there's a little bit with Amy and Georgie because Georgie uh wants to ride Cinders, and Cinders needs to be cleaned,
mhm.
and that's when Georgie sort of forgets, and then she tries to hose off the horse, and then Amy gets really upset because Cinders is scared of water.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that, yeah, I just don't feel like Georgie would go to. I mean, I understand that she sort of panicked because, like, the problem is that the horse is sort of rolling in dirt and waste and sort of getting, so she was meant to put that coat on, but yeah, it just feels like Georgie would sort of think of like, yeah, like water, washing a horse down with water when he's scared of water isn't the best option here.
Yeah. Yeah, is I mean, it seems understandable for like a commoner, but for somebody that's as familiar of horses as Georgie is now,
Yeah.
it it probably she probably would know better. But anyway, they Amy gets upset with her, and then they Lisa comes back, and Amy and Georgie make up. I thought the whole scene where Jack makes tea for Lisa was so cute.
Yeah, it's so cute. Like he made everything perfect. He's got all of his matching matching
Yeah.
dishes out.
As I've mentioned it before, but I really do like that the show is not afraid to make its male characters do sort of more feminine things or be like soft and kind, and something like setting up a tea set for Lisa is just kind of in that ballpark, I feel like, or having Ty take care of Katie, or having sort of these just things you don't necessarily always see, especially in a show about like cowboys. Basically, you don't expect to see such like sweet behavior from the men, and I think that's really nice.
Yeah, and the show is like so committed to it to the point of like it never feels like the show is like saying like, oh, if Tim walked in, he would be embarrassed, or if if
Right,
somebody else,
right.
like it's just seen as like this is just part of these men's character.
Hmm. I agree. Yeah, there's really not any like machismo. I mean, maybe like a really, I mean, there is some with Tim, but other than that, and he even has his sweet moments. I think it's really nice to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't try to get sort of like points for it. It's just part of who they are, like you're saying. And so I like that. And Lisa, she says, "I missed this." It was really cute. I liked that
Hmm.
a lot. And then um, you have Lisa and Jack going on uh, like a date to take Cinders back, and you have the flashback of them breaking down in his truck and having a picnic. And Jack getting annoyed with the GPS made me laugh so hard.
That is like my dad to like a T. Like he will not like see if we're going someplace, like I ask him to take me someplace because I don't drive. Um, and I get out the GPS, he's like you can see just like the the rage just starting. Like even when we were going to like pick up my puppy, um, there was like two roads that with the same name, and we were so confused as to what one it was, and he was like, "This is just a GPS all over. This is just like they just cut corners, and it's just about getting there the quickest, and it's no actual." It's like, oh my god, like it was just this scene like playing out in my life.
Yeah.
Oh, it
It's
was
so fun. Yeah. And it's more in the next episode, but yeah. Yeah, my dad isn't too bad with GPS. He doesn't mind it too much, but yeah, it definitely made you think about that kind of that sort of aged person and technology, and it was very funny. So yeah, what would you give this episode 1 to 10?
I'd maybe give it like an 8. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I think it was pretty good. So I think that's a good score.
We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies Podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
All right, then we have Things We Lost is our next episode. And this is Jack and Lisa are lost in the woods, but a trip down memory lane may just help them find their way. And this one, it's really starts out funny with the if this with Jack. He's like, if this says recalculating one more time, that made me laugh. And by the end, he's throwing it out of. But this just shows that whenever you go someplace, you really should tell at least one other person, we're going this way and this is where we're, like, so that if you get lost, that
Yeah,
people know kind of where you're going.
yeah, especially when it's like such wilderness. Like there's
Right.
nothing. It's just mountains.
Yeah. Yeah. And uh, especially if you're going to have an animal with you, I mean, it makes it all the more important to, you have something else to take care of. And they run out of gas. And so then they are stuck. And uh, you also have Amy making Ty's birthday cake, which I feel like you see this fairly often, but like I don't understand it because
I don't understand it either.
there's nothing easier than making a cake mix birthday cake. Like what?
Exactly. Even if you're not even doing it from like a box, like a
Yeah.
sort of almost sort of pre-made box where you just add one or two things. Like it's so simple, but even if you're doing it from scratch, like I'm not great at cooking. I prefer baking because if you
Mhm.
follow the rules, it turns out good no matter what. Like
Yeah.
as long as you do what it says, that's it. But
There's
as
like
far
a
as
few little like you could have maybe like old baking powder or something like that that it doesn't
yeah,
work right. But aside from that, I mean, just why you wouldn't just do a cake mix. It's like seriously eggs and oil and water mix. That's it.
yeah, yeah, it's so. I mean, it was sort of. interesting because we do sort of see that side of Amy of like she is not of like Ty is definitely more of the like homemaker type
Yeah,
personality than Amy. We've seen it a little bit when, you know, she sort of tries to offload Katie onto him so many times as well.
that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they do sort of flip the roles that way.
yeah. Amy isn't perfect at everything, so that's good. And you get like uh the Ty and Amy being kind of flirty together, which is always fun. I'm
Yeah,
sure that especially back then that was like huge anytime for the fans, anytime they had any moments like that was very exciting. And then we get Jade is back. Her mother is sick, and so Tim agrees to watch Jade, and Jade is kind of thrust upon Georgie, which I felt sorry for because I mean, literally the last time that they were together, Jade stole a truck with Georgie and put her life in peril.
yeah, yeah. I
Probably
was
not
sort
the
of confused as
best.
to like I didn't know like Tim and Trisha were as close as like watch my child for me,
Yeah.
especially when that child like endangered the life of your granddaughter.
Yeah. I would not think that Tim would be that stupid, but it is Tim we're talking about. So,
True, true.
yeah. Yeah. Are they setting up Tim and Trisha as like a couple?
I
I mean,
don't
I guess they
think
were kind of
so.
flirty before, but
I don't think so. It feels like when she first come on, it was like going to be Trisha and Jack initially. And I
mhm.
thought like, oh, maybe Lisa will come back and it'll be like a jealousy thing we'll be dealing with. But they went with Tim, and then it's sort of been dropped as well. So I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, and you got to feel for Georgie because she just gets taunted so much by the fact that she is adopted, whether it's from Olivia or Jade or I don't know, just she gets so much flack for it, which is just ridiculous, completely out of her control.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't like how it's sort of portrayed as like a negative thing.
Hmm.
Of like, if anything, it should be a thing that's celebrated.
Right. Yeah, like they they use it as a plot point. I don't think is the show isn't like criticizing it, but they use it as a way to like make her character grow supposedly. And it just yeah, I don't know. It's sometimes maybe a little much. It's just like would people really do kids really care? Like other stuff you can kind of understand kids sort of teasing other kids about, like if somebody's maybe got something unusual about them, but do kids really care about who's adopted and not adopted? Like that seems like something kids don't care about.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Yeah.
Even when I was growing up, it just wasn't a thing. Like
No.
we didn't know who was in foster care or who was adopted, or everyone was just sort of the same.
Yeah, the only one I can think of growing up, and I don't think we really teased them, but there was a family in my school that had it was a doctor who had like 12 kids that were all from Africa.
Mm.
Um, so obviously they did kind of stand out. Um, that he had all adopted. That's the only example of anything like that I can think of. That was different, I guess, at least. But we didn't care. We're like, yay, our basketball team is really good. Uh, but but anyway, then we had the let's see, sorry, I lost my place. So then you have Jack and Lisa setting up camp, and you have Jack humming his little tune, "Walk Me Over the Bridge." That was cute. The only thing that was weird about it is they had to flash back to Caleb and Ashley's wedding, which was a little awkward.
Yeah, that was strange. That was strange. I know that's sort of where the song came in, but yeah, I feel like we could have just focused on on Jack and Amy.
Yeah, yeah, Jack and Lisa, and uh, yeah, it was just it's. Oh, I see what you're saying. See what you're saying. Yeah, that we didn't really. I mean, it was just sort of weird to see Caleb and Ashley because I don't know, that whole thing was not handled well at all. You know, you're just like, who gets married and then literally immediately on the honeymoon breaks up? Like it was just, I don't know. It was,
Yeah.
but it was cute, Jack humming his little tune
Mhm.
while he was getting ready. I love that whole thing. I think it's my grandfather who I adored and loved, he would do that where he would just sort of be like humming a little tune as he went about his day. And it was always so something I don't know, I just love that. I think it's so cute.
Yeah, and it
And
was good that it sort of tied back into that moment of her, realizing that that was Lindy's song, and it sort of
yeah,
tied right back into like how that never really went away.
yeah, and he says, I miss Lindy sometimes, but I love you all the time.
Mhm.
So cute. And he says, whether I go to France or not, one day I will go with you. And so then he ends up obviously goes to France uh and then they have a flashback to an argument uh that he says, when it comes to traveling, we never have much luck. I went on the trip, Lisa, what more do you want from me?
Mm.
And yeah, I don't really, she's mad at him because he didn't like the restaurants that they went to, that he just doesn't like France. And I don't know, I guess it's really important to her that I guess it's her second home. It kind of makes sense, I suppose, but I don't know. It's tough because you can't really ask people to be something they're not.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it was sort of the big thing in this episode of like we know like from just watching them together over these years of like they need to figure out a way to like meld their lives together in a way that they're both comfortable. Like Jack isn't going to be comfortable with going to France all of the time, and Lisa needs to find a way to be okay with that, and vice versa. And they sort of, I guess, have addressed that a little bit throughout these past few seasons. And then at the end of this episode, they come to that realization where they say we need to find a way to put our lives together, and it's like, yeah, we know that, like, but how are you going to actually do that? Like, it feels like they just came to this realization that they'd already sort of come to, or at least maybe in the
Yeah.
audience had come to. So it's like I want to actually see them actually figure that out,
Hmm.
because I do not want to see like a Lou and Peter situation where we're just going to see
Right.
the same thing over and over again. Like
Right.
if in a few episodes it's going to be Jack's miserable because Lisa's in France, I'm just going to lose my mind. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my
Well, and
god.
I don't really understand what happened with the whole Arizona thing. So Jack had his heart attack and then he went to Arizona to heal? What?
Yeah, I feel like in this episode it was sort of Jack and Lisa were going to take a vacation to Arizona to like recuperate. And then it all sort of fell apart when she got the hospital bed.
Yeah, that was bizarre. Like, why on earth would he's not an invalid. Like
Yeah,
in the
that's
it
bizarre.
was why would he need a hospital bed? Like that was so strange to me. And I mean, I can understand being sort of protective and wanting to care for your loved one, but he he's not, I don't know. It was bizarre to buy him a hospital bed. Like he's not, if anything, you need to like after a heart incident, you need to
Be active and
be active. Yeah, exactly. You need to be out doing more and
taking
trying
care of
to,
yourself.
Yeah, so that was very strange, and I don't know, it just seems like a weird flex to be like, I just had a heart attack. I'm going to Arizona. Like what?
Yeah. Yeah, again, I don't know if it was, like, a thing that they had sort of planned together, but then if it was, it wouldn't make sense that, they would break up and then Jack would just go on his own.
Yeah, it does not feel very Jack to me, and just seems very random. Like why Arizona? And I guess they see it as some kind of middle ground between between Heartland and France. The middle ground is Arizona, I guess. I don't know. But you have Georgie accusing Jade of stealing her bracelet. And she tells Tim, next time you decide to put a kleptomaniac in my room, ask me first, which is a valid point.
Yeah, I mean, this is the bracelet that Lou gave her to, like, hold on for until
Yeah,
Lou comes back. So it's understandable that she would sort of overreact, but yeah, the second it happens, I'm like, "Oh, she's gonna find that." She's gonna find
right.
it, like, under her pillow or something.
Yes. And you also have uh they building the camp, and you have the storm, and so they have to get kind of cuddly and cute and close. And with Jack and Lisa, and then they find Cinders stuck, and the next morning Cinders stuck in a pit,
Mm.
and so they decide Jack goes to get higher ground, and yeah, you have Jade. It was like, is Jack that old guy? I liked him. I hope he's okay.
Yeah.
I think
Oh
it
my
does feel
god.
somewhat accurate for a snotty teenager. Is that old
Yeah,
guy?
yeah. It's so funny.
Yeah, and so then you also have, so finally Jack's able to get through to Amy, and on the when he gets to the higher ground, and then he talks to Ty and asks Ty to bring him his pills. And that was a good moment. I kind of like that relationship between Jack and Ty.
Yeah, yeah. And I like these moments where they just sort of reestablish that relationship. Like,
Hmm.
as Ty gets older, it sort of never really goes away.
Yeah, and I mean, probably it would have been wise of Jack to bring his medicine just in case, if if it's that much of a problem if he doesn't have it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that relationship. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, they've saved each other's life multiple times
Mm.
between Jack and
Yeah.
Ty. So would be very close. And so then Georgie finds the bracelet, as of course in her jacket, and Jade says, "Well, and it'll be an eye for, If you heard of an eye for an eye, if I were you, I'd watch my back." So, and of course, Jade decides to take it out on poor Clover.
Poor Clover. Done nothing.
Yes, because Tim has sold all of the sheep, and uh, then uh, Jade hides Clover, and so I think the main reason Georgie is upset is because she has to deal with Olivia if Clover's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, she's bad enough. She's got one sort of nemesis to deal with. Now she's got two.
Yeah, but it turns out Georgie is just tricking Jade, because Clover is gone, and he's they she's hid him in the outhouse, and anyway, so they're very upset, and uh, Jade's like, where's Clover?" And that seems to be the ticket for them finally hitting it off. They said that they decided to be friends after that.
Yeah, and I feel like this is just again, I try to stay sort of spoiler free, but I do know that this is like a long term thing of like this friendship, and this is like the beginning of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. And so then you have Lisa, the flashback, saying maybe we shouldn't go to Arizona together. And this is kind of their breakup moment. And Lisa says, I was all in because I loved you. And she's going to sell her property. And so she's going to be gone. She's going to, I guess, move to France permanently. Is what it sounds like is her plan. And I guess I kind of wonder if, like, why can't they make France more Jack appropriate? You know what I mean? Like, why can't they just have the food that he wants to eat? And why can't they, I mean, because you can have whatever you want in your, like, there's no reason why you have to go to those restaurants and you have to, like, I feel
Mm.
like there's ways that you could make it just the same as Heartland, but it's in France for the
I mean,
most
where
part,
was it
except
Jake?
people.
Where was it Jake was going? Was Jake going to France?
Oh yeah, that's true.
He was going
Yeah,
to
to
France to be a
Paris.
cowboy. Yeah, I was going to be a cowboy
You're right.
in
Yeah,
Paris.
that's a good point.
Yeah. So next time Jack has to go to France, just have him meet up with Jake.
Jake and
Um,
Mallory, they're both
yeah,
there.
yeah,
That's very true. That's a good point.
yeah. But I
Yeah.
liked that in this episode they did have like the France thing is sort of a weak sauce for me, but I did like that. Part of the argument that Jack had was now he's just sort of worried about his mortality, and I guess I didn't even realize there was much of an age difference, but I guess there is from Jack's perspective. I feel like that's a much more
Mhm.
sort of um interesting sort of dynamic that not dynamic an interesting sort of issue that they would have other than France again.
Yeah. And so then you have another flashback where they say, I love us together. And you have Jack then saying, I don't want you to sell. Will you please stay? It was very cute. And then you also have Amy finally making a cake for Ty, and evidently it's terrible. But he eats it, and they have a like little flirty fight.
Yeah, it was a cute moment.
Yeah, it was cute. So, so yeah, where would you put this episode? Where would you rate it?
Um, I would say an 8.5 just because the Jack and Lisa stuff was so good and those actors are just so good together.
Yeah, they really do have great chemistry.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic chemistry.
Yeah. All right. So then we have Smoke and Mirrors, and this episode we have. Hold on a sec. Oh wow, this is a long synopsis. Usually they're really short. So in this episode, after returning from a visit to Moose Jaw, Tim suddenly decides that his faithful older ranch cattle horse isn't enough for him anymore, and he buys a new, beautiful young cutting horse, Smoke and Mirrors. He convinces Amy to help train them in hopes of rejoining the rodeo lifestyle, but Amy soon realizes that the young horse might be too much horse for Tim to handle. Jack tries to figure out what happened during Tim's trip that spurred his midlife crisis. Lisa's ex husband Dan rocks the boat at Heartland when he stops by to pay Amy, uh, informs Tim and Jack that he's expanding his business to include high end rodeo cattle ranch horses, which further fuels Tim's obsession with reliving his younger days. Then he tries to sow doubt about Lisa and Jack's future together. Georgie hopes to audition for a trick riding team and attempts to teach herself a potentially dangerous new trick, resulting in her instructor expelling her from class. So, yeah, a lot going on in this episode. What did you think overall of this one?
Sorry, that was like a chapter of a book you read
I
there.
know it was a lot.
Yeah, I like this episode. The Tim stuff was just sort of ridiculous. Of like, I just felt like the sort of revelation of what happened, in Moose Jaw versus like his reaction to it didn't really line up for me. But yeah, other than that, I liked all of the Georgie stuff. I liked sort of the Ty and Cat stuff. Yeah, another strong episode for me.
Yeah, I mean, this was not Tim's greatest episode. I mean, certainly, I guess it wasn't his worst, but he starts out with him fighting with Shane on the phone, and then he's fighting and picking a fight with Ty. And so already you're like, oh boy.
Yeah, and I don't get like Tim's whole thing with Ty as well. It feels like this needs to be sort of the end of it.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand why he's so mad at Ty.
Yeah, I mean, he sees Ty as like some kind of threat to his like head of household status, I think.
Yeah,
Something like
yeah.
that. I don't know,
He
it's
sees
weird.
him as some sort of like loser or something, and it's like he's like the opposite. He's like going to vet school. He's sort of picked a career. He's working towards it. He's paying for it as much as he can. I know he's getting a little bit of help, but it's not as if he's like slacking through life.
Yeah. If anything, he's more sort of motivated. Maybe that's why he feels threatened by Ty, is that Ty
Yeah, yeah, that's a good
is
point.
going to school and has a plan and everything. And where Tim seems to kind of be making it up on the fly
Hmm.
with his schemes and everything, whether it's starting in the fast food franchise or, like getting the sheep or it's
Something
just
different
always,
every.
yeah. And uh, the you have Georgie taking the trick lessons. There's the extreme team. And you can tell that Peter and Lou are gone because they would not be a fan, I don't think, of her trying out for the extreme team.
Yeah, there's no way Lou would sign off on this.
And uh, you have Dan Hartfield visiting, and he is just the worst. I feel like him and Tim would be friends.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Actually be
100%.
friends. But uh, you have Cassandra and Ty kind of battling it out at the clinic, and Ty's still upset about what happened with Jeremy, and the fact that Cassandra lied about that. And I mean, because Cassandra, she didn't help him kill his horse. She just let him. She assumed that she didn't know that he was up to no good. She just let him in when she shouldn't have.
Yeah, she sort of let him in and sort of, I guess, sort of hid the truth when it sort of all came out.
Yeah,
But at that point, she was just sort of stuck, I guess. Um, so yeah, it's just sort of an unfortunate situation
yeah.
for her.
And they are saying though that the clients, I guess, aren't liking her because she's very blunt.
She does
But
have a bit of an attitude, I'm not gonna lie.
mhm,
Just as someone like I've dealt with vets a lot in the last couple of years, and you need vets to be sort of firm, but also it's your animal and ultimately you're going to make the decision. And I do feel like she does have a point of like, I mean, the old dog in this episode is exactly the issues that I had with my old dog. Of like, he has kidney problems. If we give it medication, that's going to make the kidney problems worse. But he also needs help with the arthritis, and so they really should be like saying, let's do laser, let's do acupuncture, let's do all these alternative things as
yeah,
opposed to medication. So if anything, she does have some good points. She just doesn't put it across very well.
Well, and I wish they had brought in Scott for this a little bit at least. Like you think he would have an opinion about acupuncture being done in his clinic and other things like that.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Yeah, definitely.
I think he would be the one to decide in the end about that. But yeah, I guess did you know they do acupuncture on dogs?
Yeah, yeah, they do acupuncture on dogs, they do laser treatment on dogs. Um, yeah. The reason I moved to the vet that I'm currently with now is they're very holistic in their approach. So they
Mhm.
will go sort of the natural approach before they will turn to sort of more
Yeah.
medicine type things.
Uh, interesting. I don't have a dog, so I didn't know that. But you have this new horse, Smoke and Mirrors, being bought, and it is a beautiful horse.
Yeah, it sort of looked a little bit like Harley.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Spartan
Hmm.
too, a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess this is too much for Tim to handle. It's too much horse.
Yeah, and his old horse is like beautiful as well. So it's like he's so sort of ruthless. I guess you sort of have to be a little bit when you work with animals, but it's like have a heart. A horse has been with you
Yeah.
for a long time.
Well, and there's there he hasn't given the horse a name. So his working horse, cattle horse. And so they decide to at the end they decide to name him Champ
Hmm.
because but yeah, he doesn't value because it seems too ordinary. It's not flashy, and he wants to enter this horse in the Jubilee competition, the Smoke and Mirrors horse, and he gets thrown pretty bad, and he ends up dislocating his shoulder, and yeah, that looked painful.
Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah. Chris Porter was really good at like selling.
Yeah,
Like Tim was really in pain here.
he's good.
Um,
I I thought it was really funny when Jack throws hay on Georgie. She's like,
yeah,
"Thanks a lot."
yeah.
That was cute. Uh, and then you have Georgie. She tries the trick on the horse and loses control. And she had already done this at least once before, where she tried a trick where she didn't have the knowledge or the permission to do so. And I think that she would have, I doubt she would have done it again.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like another strength of this episode is like pairing um Tim and Georgie because they are sort of similar. Because even in this episode, like Tim buys this horse and like tries to like relive his younger years. And
Hmm.
that's not the first time I've seen this. He tried to sort of coach Caleb at one point and then decided he was going to try and, you know, have a second career,
Hmm.
which didn't pan out. So he sort of redoes it in this episode. So yeah, they both sort of have a similar um like stubbornness, I guess.
That's true. That's a good point. One other random thing that I kind of liked to see in this episode is that you could tell that when they filmed this, it was really cold.
Yeah, yeah.
You could see their breath, which, considering how many uh, Christmas movies we see with
Fake.
that are with no breath, it was kind of like, ooh, they were really. It was cold whenever they filmed this episode.
Yeah, I love following like Amber Marshall around this time because she obviously has like a ranch she sort of has to take care of.
Yeah,
And yeah, just like when it gets to winter, you're just like, how do you exist? And
yeah.
weather like that, like how do you like just go from day to day, like doing all of the same like tasks and things that would
Hmm.
be hard enough um in beautiful weather, but yeah, just like it just looks so impossible.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, it's when it's especially that humid cold that you get up there in Canada.
Mm.
Ooh, ooh, it's just biting. it goes through your bones. Uh, yeah, rough. And so then you have Sandra and Georgie competing in the competition with them in their pink outfits. It was cute.
Yeah, I loved her in the mirror of like Amy just watching her, like trying
Yeah,
to like. Oh, it's so cute.
really, really cute. And Tim says to always trust your instincts.
Hmm.
But then and Amy and him have kind of an argument, and Amy says, "You're having a midlife crisis," and he says they found out Tim is. He found out that Miranda is seeing a new guy in Moose Jaw, is a much younger lawyer, and so that's what inspired this midlife crisis.
Yeah, and again, if we sort of bought into their relationship, it would probably, you know, make a little bit more sense. But yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think any of us were like rooting or like into that relationship. So yeah,
yeah, no, it's true. They have not had a relationship for Tim that has been convincing. Whether it's Miranda or Janice or I don't know. They have not been able to win me over yet with anybody with Tim.
oh well, we've got like multiple seasons to go.
Yes, hopefully eventually they will, but uh he can't even he tries to put even he can't even put the saddle on
Yeah,
the
that was
horse.
such a good scene of like
Yeah.
you seen just sort of a little bit of vulnerability from Tim.
Well, and so Georgie did not get the part, even though she did a good job. She's just too young.
Hmm.
You're right. It's the opposite problem that Tim is having, to
Uh-huh.
where he's feeling too old, Georgie's feeling too young, and so she just needs to practice more. So the trainer's impressed with Georgie. She needs to learn her own signature trick, and so I'm sure we'll be seeing that coming up.
Yeah.
And so then Tim sells smoke and mirrors to Dan for more than he paid for it. So it all works out. Uh, all the money in the world is just small potatoes.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
it was
that's
good to
when,
sort of see Jack sort of get a little bit of a scene with Dan of like standing up to him.
yeah,
Because Dan just sort of comes by and just sort of throws his relationship with Lisa and Jack's face all the time. So it was nice to sort of see Jack get like a little bit of a great scene with him.
yeah. And so that's when they name the trail horse named Champ. And so this, I feel like this is a nuts and bolts kind of episode where we get
Yeah.
like character growth, but it's not like especially memorable.
Mhm.
So what would you give it? This one?
Maybe like a 7.5.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah, just because
fair.
yeah, the Georgia stuff is really good.
Yeah. So there we go. That is the 3 episodes for this week. Let us know if you are listening, what you think of these episodes and what you would give them. And are they favorites of yours? Like I said, this is a very Jack and Lisa centered group of episodes. So that's always fun. And we'll be finishing up seasons 7 pretty soon. So that's going to be fun. And we'll on to season 8. I think the plan going forward is that we'll finish off, we'll do season 8 and then take a break for the holidays, if you can believe it. That's already will be
Yeah.
October. And then yeah, and then we'll be back after at the beginning of the year. So that's kind of my plan for Heartland coming up. But yeah, let us know if you're listening, what you think. And Michelle, where can people find you? Oh, did I lose you?
Nope, I'm here.
Oh yeah. So
Ooh.
I don't know, it went quiet for some reason. So Michelle, where can people find you?
On Twitter at Michelle R. Benson.
You can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So please take a look at that. And then also make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. If you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. Really appreciate that. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our merch store, which has Heartland inspired merch. And also we have our patron group, which is a lot of fun. And we really appreciate that support. And so check that out. All the information will be in the description. So thanks everybody. And we will talk again next week. Bye everyone.
Bye everyone.